Hey everyone, so tonight I'm going to make another quick and easy recipe. It's called sheet pan chicken and veggies. Now this comes out of my Taste Buds box, and if you don't know about Taste Buds, that is our subscription service that you can get once a month. It comes with 3 recipes, 3 spices. One of them is usually an exclusive because they use Taste Buds subscribers as testers for new spices. So that's actually where one of our newer one for the summer has come out, the chimichurri. It was in last year's Taste Buds during the summer. So you hear my microwave here. The recipe calls for taking 2 small potatoes and microwaving them for 5 minutes. So I've done that. I'm going to sit them there. And I'm going to let them cool for a few minutes before I do anything with them. But I just washed them and poked them with a fork and popped them in the microwave for 5 minutes. So now what I'm going to do, we're going to have red bell pepper. Calls for a whole one. That's why I saved most of mine from the other night. This is my Santuco knife, the coated one. I'm just going to go through here and cut off the sides of this. Now at this point, for bell peppers, I really like to use my quick slice. But I think we want the peppers to be a little more chunky, so I'm just going to kind of cut them in chunks. And I'm going to throw them in. This is the plastic mixing bowl, the 3-quart one. Now the 3-quart one is one that they had moved to get rid of. It's been an outlet. If you're not familiar with outlet, that's always a good place to go to look for sales, because that's the things that are going out of the catalog, and they're in there while supplies last. So they're going to be dropped in price a little bit. So if there's something that you've been eyeing and you'd like to get, but you didn't get it and now it's not in the catalog, go there and see if it's still there. If it's not there, that means they completely sold out of it. But last I looked, the 3-quart bowl was still there. I don't know if it still is. I haven't looked in a little bit. So all I'm doing is just cutting these into pieces, not too small, but just to make them into chunks, I guess. And this is our prep board. It actually comes with 2 of these. These are the prep and store containers. They have a place that you can vent, or so you have the sides of these here, and these come out, and you can end up, I'm not going to take that completely out, but you can end up putting it in the sides here or over here, depending on how your cabinet, where it fits better for you. I'm just going to open that up and put there, because I'm going to kind of use that as my trash container. Since I'm putting everything that I'm using in my mixing bowl. Okay, so at this point, we have 2 small zucchinis. And then we have 2 carrots. So I've already peeled my carrots, so I'm just going to take these tips off here and make them nice and level. So at this point, I'm going to get out my Rapid Prep mandolin. Love this thing for slicing. It makes nice uniform slices. What you're going to do is pull this handle out, and these settings here, this top setting makes slices, it makes julienne pieces, and it makes French fry cut. We're going to leave it on slice. And then I'm going to fit this right in here. So what do I have this as a 3 for my zucchini. I think I'm going to make a 4, because I don't know that we want that super thin. So, okay. This has a little little piece here that you can fit in. Let me lift that up. Am I doing this right? It would have to go this way. What? Okay, I haven't used this in a while. So the thing is, if you use it this way, you're gonna have diagonal slices of stuff. But if you don't use it, you're gonna have straight up slices. And so I think that's what I wanna do for my zucchini. And I'm going to, it says to make them in half moons, so I'm just gonna cut them down in half. Cutting it in half made it wanna, makes them wanna slide in my hand a little bit. Maybe I should use the chute. Yeah, I'm gonna do that just because they're sleeping. Okay, so I'm gonna have some that are half and some that are not. I think it works better to get a couple cuts in and get it going before actually using the chute. Just because usually the veggies are flat on the end, and then when you get it into that diagonal, it starts to go in better. Okay, so at this point, we have nice uniform pieces of zucchini. Out. Now, these are the veggies that this recipe calls for, but you most definitely could use other veggies. If there's something you don't like, you could swap out something else. So for our carrots, I'm going to go down to maybe a 2 because it says to do them kind of thin. And I think it's only because they're a harder vegetable, so you want them to cook at about the same as the other. Something I guess I could have done. Yes, I could have both of them at the same time. Yeah, let's not push down so I get them further in. That's what I always worry about, them sliding the other way instead of staying uniform. We're going to do this down as far as I can with holding them. So here we have our carrots all cut up. Now, a lot of times the julienne slicer portion of things, I use that. I've used it with ham. I have used it with zucchini to make those nice little julienne pieces like you see at salad bars sometime. What else have I used it for? That's mostly what I use the julienne slicer for, to be honest. But you may come up with other ideas. Okay, so I'm going to take this apart. Well, there we go. We'll pull this down and do it. So this would actually, you would actually just push this down and clean this out really good. I just do it with soapy water, and that's how I do there. I'm going to set this to the side, plus the container. Now we're going to move on to our potatoes. And it just says to cut them in chunks, so I think what I'm going to do, and I guess the reason for microwaving them is because potatoes are so hard that they sometimes take longer to cook than other things. I guess that's the reasoning. I'm not real sure. Put that in. I almost wondered for us, there's 3 of us, if I should have done 3 potatoes instead of 2. But we'll do it like the recipe calls for the first time, and next time I'll know. Sucker's still hot. Okay. So we've got this. I'm going to take my small stainless steel scoop, and we are going to measure 3 tablespoons of oil. Here's some olive oil. It actually says divided. So I think it is, how is it divided? I think it's 1 1/2. So if you haven't seen the stainless steel measuring cups, this runs, it shows you 1 teaspoon, 2 teaspoons, 1 tablespoon, 2 tablespoons, and all the way to the top is 3. So for 1 1/2, we're going to go somewhere between that first and second line, and you can see those lines on the inside. So I'm just going to do that. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and measure out for the next round, and that'll be my 3 tablespoons. And done with that. Then we are going to use crushed peppercorn and garlic rub. This is also divided, so we're going to do 2 teaspoons. Not with that we aren't, since I left that oil in there. Okay, so back to my little measuring scoops. We're going to do 2 teaspoons of the crushed peppercorn and garlic. And crushed peppercorn and garlic, I primarily use on steak. So I'm kind of excited when Taste Buds has recipes for this, because it would be a good recipe. I mean, it'd be a good spice to use for other things. I'm just not real creative and knowing what exactly to put that with. All right, so I'm going to use my small mixer here, and I'm going to stir this up. All right, this part is done then. So I'm going to leave this as it is for the moment, because we're going to do our chicken, and then I'm going to put the chicken on the sheet pan and center this around it. And this is our brilliant sheet pan that has the rack. We're not going to need the rack tonight. I just left that so that y'all could see exactly which pan I was using. I think this is a half a sheet pan, if I'm not mistaken. So at this point, we are going to mix up our topping for the chicken. I've got my chicken here in my bag. It's 4 small chicken breasts, or the chicken breasts that I have separated out to use. We are going to have 1/2 cup of mayo. I'm gonna get my medium mix and scrape for that, just because I already have seasoning on that one. And the bigger stainless steel cup also has measurements. It has measurements of 1/4, 1/2, 1/4, 1/3, 1/2, 2/3, 3/4, and then a cup. So we need 1/3 of mayonnaise. So I really don't need but a little bit more of this. And that's all of that. And then we are going to put 1/3 of a cup of Dijon mustard. I'm getting lower in my mustard, so I had it upside down. And because Dijon has white wine in it, you want to shake it up, because otherwise you just get liquid at first. Actually, regular mustard pretty well will do the same for you. And this may take a lot of the rest of my mustard. I'm tired of that squirting, so I'm just gonna do it this way. I think I got enough. That's good for that. You don't want to overpower it. And we're going to use 2 tablespoons of honey. Let me grab my tablespoon measure. Mr. Honey Bear. I think that's pretty much it for my honey. So I'm only going to have about a tablespoon of honey. There's some in the bottom, but it's stuck, so I'm not going to worry with it. And I think at this point we are going back to our rub and doing the other teaspoon of that. Alrighty. So I'm going to stir this up with my mini mix and scrape here. This is smelling really, really good. And it recommends to save about 1/4 a cup of the sauce for afterwards. So I'm going to use my 1 cup prep bowl. It has the measurements on the side: 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, and then up to the top is a cup. I'm just going to pour some of that in. Is that right? Yep, that's pretty well right. Pop the lid on that, and we're going to save that for in a little bit. So now I'm going to take my chicken, Well, actually, let me do one more thing. There's one more prep thing I need to do, and that's grate some Parmesan cheese. So this is our adjustable grater. And we're going to use the smaller side of it tonight. So these things are pretty sharp. So I leave the cover on whichever one that I'm not using. And you can actually take these apart. Right here where there is an arrow. I don't take it apart because I'm usually afraid I'm not going to get it back together. But it will come apart. You can lay it across a bowl and grate with it. So we're going to use half a cup of Parmesan cheese. Now the good thing with the adjustable grater, it also has a safety feature that you can slide on here and grate your cheese with. I don't use it either, just because I find it easier just to go ahead and do it. I think if you were getting down to the bottom and you were afraid to cut your fingers, that would be a good idea. But just to use it, I'm just going to do this. Well, let me see where my measurements are for half a cup on here. I got it turned the wrong way. So we're just going to grate this Parmesan cheese, because you guys know that using fresh cheese is always better than using the bulk kind that's already grated, right? I do use it sometimes in a pinch when I want to get away with something quick, but the cheese that is in the store already grated has something that's called a caking agent in it that keeps it from sticking together. So that's why you want to try to stay away from that if you can, just because sometimes those things keep your foods from melting as well as they should, or your cheeses from melting. So, okay, we've got about half a cup of Parmesan cheese here. So I have another bowl. And in it, I'm going to put my Parmesan cheese. We're going to go back with panko breadcrumbs because they're nice and crispy. You know, they're made with the, what are they made with? The Japanese style crumbs. So we are going to use a half a cup of those. And I did not set that out. I think my intention was I was going to use the, well, I could have used that, but I already got this now. Stainless steel measuring cup. And since I left my mixture in that. Okay. So we've got half a cup of crumbs, half a cup of Parmesan. And that's where the rest of our oil comes in. And all that's really going to do is help to make that brown nice and even. So we do another one out. I'm going to bring this over here at this point. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our chicken. And I guess I'm going to do this side. We're going to put our chicken pieces on the pan. And I'm going to use my basting brush here to coat the chicken with this mixture. My oven was already on to 450, so it's preheated. If y'all haven't done sheet pan meals yet, They are so easy. Once you actually get this prep work done and get your protein, whatever meat you're using, on with your veggies and pop it in the oven, it's gonna roast and it's gonna cook and take care of itself. So at that point, you're pretty well done, unless you wanna make another side. Okay, that's kind of what I was thinking. So the recipe actually calls for picking this up and dunking it into this mixture so that it sticks to this, but I think what I'm gonna do is just pick up my mixture and kind of pile it on here. Just because I think that's gonna be messier to try to pick up the chicken than and stick it in there. Because all of that Dijon and mustard and stuff, mayonnaise, it's gonna get all in your crumbs. Just level that out there a little bit. And at this point, this is where I'm going to put our veggies. I think actually it would be better if our chicken were all more to one side. Let's see if I can do that. So that we can lay these out more flat. Yeah. And that's it. This is gonna bake for 30 to 35 minutes. It might be a good thing. I think probably about halfway through, I'm gonna take this pan out and turn these veggies over just so that what's hitting the metal pan on the bottom and crisp up, the top may not get as crisp, just to make it more uniform. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in and get that started. Like I said, at this point, you're done. Sit back, have a glass of wine, have a glass of sweet tea, whatever you want after your long day of working, and just wait for dinner to be ready. Unless you feel like you need extra, you could do mac and cheese, you could do rice. If you wanted more potatoes, you could do mashed potatoes, or you could just have a salad with it if you want to go low carb. So that way the only carb in there would be the potatoes. So thanks a lot, guys. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.